Hello, this is Adriana from Tasty Pastry Kitchen, and today I'm going to hop on the Dalgona coffee train and make these Dalgona coffee tartlets with drizzled dark chocolate. To make these, we're going to use my favorite sweet pastry crust, and then we're going to make a diplomat cream and flavor it with Dalgona coffee mousse. All right, let's get started. All right, to make the tart dough, you're going to add some butter and some powdered sugar and salt to the bowl of a mixer. Let this go on medium speed until the sugar is completely incorporated into the butter. Then add your flour to the butter mixture and let this go on medium speed for at least a minute. You can stick your hand down there to feel the dough. It should feel a little bit like very lightly damp sand. And you want the butter to mix completely with the flour, and this does two things. The first thing is that it inhibits gluten formation, and the second thing is that it gives us that really crumbly crust that we like so much in a tart dough. Then take your egg yolk and milk and mix it together in a small bowl, and then you're going to want to pour that all into the dough mixture. At this point, you don't want to overmix because liquid and flour can form gluten if it's overworked. So stop the mixer just when the dough comes together. Then dump all of the dough onto a piece of plastic wrap. You can either shape it into a disc, but I'm going to do a large rectangle because it's going to be easier to portion out for the tartlets. Let your dough chill in the fridge for at least 1 hour. When it's nice and firm, pull it out and portion it into 8 equal parts. Now it's time to roll out your tartlet dough circles. You can sprinkle a little bit of flour on your countertop to prevent any sticking, but I like to use the saran wrap method, and the reason is that you don't add any extra flour when you're rolling out your dough. So go ahead and take one portion of your dough and slowly roll it into a circle. So as you're rolling, you're going to need to pull off the saran wrap and place it back on again so that it doesn't tear, but just keep doing this over and over again until you reach the proper size for your tart tin. You can use the tart tin as a guide, and once you think you've reached a diameter that'll cover the entire bottom and sides, go ahead and peel off the top of the saran wrap and then remove the bottom saran wrap with the tart dough attached and flip it over onto your tart tin and gently try to take off the saran wrap and gently put the dough inside the tart tin, making sure that it's laying flat against the bottom so that it cooks completely, and then pressed up against the sides so that it gets that nice crimped design on the edges. So it takes a little bit of practice to get these right, but just remember to press the dough up against the sides and the bottom to make sure it bakes evenly, and to just patch up any holes with extra dough you have laying on the side. Then take a fork and poke lots of holes along the bottom and place these in the freezer for at least 15 minutes or until they're frozen solid. Take the frozen tartlet shells and place them in an oven that's been preheated to 375 degrees for at least 15 to 20 minutes. If you freeze them completely, you don't need to use pie weights. When you take them out, they'll be nice and golden around the sides and a little bit on the bottom. While the crusts are cooling, let's start our pastry cream. To a small saucepan, add your sugar and vanilla bean and gently rub out the seeds. Add your milk and let this heat to a gentle simmer. While your milk is heating, grab a large bowl, add your egg yolks and cornstarch, and use a whisk to mix thoroughly. We're going to temper the eggs, which means we're going to slowly bring up the temperature of the eggs to the temperature of the milk. When your milk is starting to let off a tiny bit of steam, turn off the heat. Then take a ladle and pour in 1 ladle at a time while whisking to bring up the temperature of the eggs. Do this a few more times, whisking the entire time. Then take the entire pot of steamed milk and pour it into the eggs. Place a large strainer over the saucepan and then pour the entire custard mixture back into the saucepan. Then turn your heat on to medium-low and constantly whisk. This process takes a few minutes, but what's happening is that we're cooking the cornstarch so that it thickens up the pastry cream. You'll know you're done when you'll see little pockets of steam releasing from the pastry cream and it starts to get pretty thick. At that point, whisk it on medium-low heat for about 15 to 20 seconds more and then turn off the heat. Then finish off the pastry cream with a pinch of salt and your unsalted butter. Then pour your pastry cream into a small bowl and cover completely with saran wrap. This prevents a skin from forming on the top. Set this aside to cool at room temperature until we're ready to fill the tarts. Now let's make some whipped cream. Take some cold heavy cream, pour it into the bowl of your mixer with a little bit of sugar and mix it on high speed until you get pretty stiff peaks. While that's going, I'm going to loosen up the pastry cream because what we're going to make is a modified diplomat cream, which means we're just going to add in a little bit of whipped cream into the pastry cream to lighten it up. When your whipped cream is finished, go ahead and take about half of that amount and put it into your pastry cream and use the spatula to fold it in until it's lighter in color and texture. Set the diplomat cream aside while we make our Dalgona coffee cream. Take equal parts by volume, instant coffee, granulated sugar, and hot water and add them to a mixing bowl. Start by mixing on medium speed until all of the coffee granules are dissolved, and then move to high speed, and you will see the Dalgona coffee cream move from a dark liquid into a medium colored foam, and then into a very lightly textured, almost meringue-like cream. This entire process took almost about a minute using my stand mixer. I wish I could use my biochemistry background to explain what's going on here, but like most things with coffee, it's not really well understood. Although from a baking perspective, it really does whip up like a meringue. It doesn't have the stability of a real Swiss or French meringue, but it's a really fun ingredient, and I suggest that you try this method if just to have one of those cool drinks that have been floating around the internet. Take a little more than half a cup and add it to your diplomat cream. Then take your spatula and fold it into the cream. You can add more of this Dalgona coffee cream if you want a really strong flavor, but I was happy with about a little over half a cup. Pour an equal amount of this Dalgona diplomat cream into each of the pastry shells. Then take an offset spatula to smooth out all the tops. You can leave them as is or dollop some whipped cream on top, but I wanted to add a chocolate element to mine, so I just drizzled some really dark chocolate on top of all the tartlets. Okay, here they are, the Dalgona coffee tartlets with a hint of dark chocolate. These are really lightly coffee flavored, but you could definitely amp up the intensity of the coffee based on how much of that coffee cream you add to your diplomat cream. Now, because the Dalgona coffee cream was kind of a new ingredient for me, I thought I'd go over what didn't work for me when I started experimenting with these tarts. My first idea was definitely to mimic the Dalgona coffee in that you would just put the coffee cream on top of a tart, just like you would put the cream on top of a glass of iced milk. But this didn't work for a couple reasons. The first one is that the coffee cream is far too bitter to be eaten on its own. It really does need to be diluted into a glass of milk. The second is the appearance. Because of its lack of stability, it doesn't really work well when piped. After about an hour or so, the coffee cream started to leak into the custard, leaving brown streaks everywhere. In my second attempt, I thought I'd make a Dalgona coffee whipped cream, so I'd mixed whipped cream with the Dalgona coffee cream. And I think this didn't work because Dalgona coffee cream is inherently different than a whipped cream. The air bubbles in whipped cream are being stabilized by the fat molecules in the heavy cream. The Dalgona coffee cream, however, has no fat in it at all. So when we put the two together, it became this curdled brown mess that was really unusable. I had lost the airy texture in both my whipped cream and my Dalgona coffee cream. All my recipe notes and instructions will be on my website, Tasty Pastry Kitchen. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a nice day.